Many people with diabetes eat fish thinking it's always the healthy choice, especially if it's grilled or comes from a well-known brand. But here's the truth most folks don't hear until it's too late. Some of the most popular fish in the American diet can quietly raise blood sugar, increase inflammation, and put pressure on your heart and kidneys. And if you're over 50, these effects can happen faster and hit harder than you think. One woman told me she had switched from red meat to fish thinking she was making the right move, but her blood sugar kept swinging and her fatigue got worse. Turns out it wasn't just what she ate, it was which fish, how it was prepared, and where it came from. That's why in this video, I'm begging you to take a closer look. We're going to uncover 5 common fish that can quietly harm people with diabetes, even if they seem healthy on the surface. From mercury in swordfish to the sneaky sodium in canned tuna, you'll learn what to avoid and why it matters. But this isn't just about what to cut out. It's also about smarter choices. We'll go through 15 simple sections that show you the hidden dangers, safer options, and better cooking habits that actually help you keep your blood sugar steady. If you've ever wondered why your numbers stay high even when you're eating clean, this could be the missing piece. We'll use real food, real science, and easy steps that make sense for people our age. Because staying healthy with diabetes shouldn't mean giving up flavor or feeling scared to eat. It just means being a little more aware of what's on your plate. So let's take this one step at a time, and by the end, you'll have a clear, confident plan for enjoying fish the right way. Most people believe fish is one of the healthiest foods you can eat, especially if you're trying to manage your blood sugar. And that's true for some types, but not all fish are created equal, especially when you're over 50 and living with diabetes. I remember chatting with a patient who had recently made a big dietary change. He proudly told me he stopped eating red meat and switched to fish 5 nights a week. But despite all that effort, his blood sugar was still out of control. He was frustrated and confused. What he didn't realize, and what many people overlook, is that some fish can quietly work against your body, especially if you're trying to manage inflammation, blood pressure, or insulin resistance. These hidden dangers don't show up right away. You won't feel different after one bite, but over time, eating the wrong fish can make it harder for your body to maintain steady blood sugar and may even affect your kidneys, nerves, and heart. Let's start with something most folks don't expect: fat. Certain fish, especially those from deep waters like swordfish or mackerel, are high in fat. Not just the good kind, like omega-3, but also fats that can destabilize your glucose levels. When your body processes high-fat meals, especially those rich in saturated or trans fats, your insulin response slows down. That means sugar stays in your bloodstream longer, which can lead to post-meal spikes. Over time, these spikes wear down your body's ability to regulate glucose, a condition often called insulin resistance. And once insulin resistance sets in, everything becomes harder, from maintaining energy to keeping your weight in check. Now imagine being over 60, dealing with age-related muscle loss, slower metabolism, and maybe even a few medications. Throw in the wrong type of fish on your plate regularly, and your body's already delicate balance gets thrown off even more. Another piece that catches many off guard is mercury. Some popular fish, like swordfish or king mackerel, are known to have high levels of mercury due to pollution in our oceans. This heavy metal doesn't just sit in your body quietly. It can interfere with your nervous system and kidneys. Many people with diabetes eat fish thinking it's always the healthy choice, especially if it's grilled or comes from a well-known brand. But here's the truth most folks don't hear until it's too late. Some of the most popular fish in the American diet can quietly raise blood sugar, increase inflammation, and put pressure on your heart and kidneys. And if you're over 50, these effects can happen faster and hit harder than you think. One woman told me she had switched from red meat to fish thinking she was making the right move, but her blood sugar kept swinging and her fatigue got worse. Turns out it wasn't just what she ate, it was which fish, how it was prepared, and where it came from. That's why in this video, I'm begging you to take a closer look. We're going to uncover 5 common fish that can quietly harm people with diabetes, even if they seem healthy on the surface. From mercury in swordfish to the sneaky sodium in canned tuna, you'll learn what to avoid and why it matters. But this isn't just about what to cut out. It's also about smarter choices. We'll go through 15 simple sections that show you the hidden dangers, safer options, and better cooking habits that actually help you keep your blood sugar steady. If you've ever wondered why your numbers stay high even when you're eating clean, this could be the missing piece. We'll use real food, real science, and easy steps that make sense for people our age. Because staying healthy with diabetes shouldn't mean giving up flavor or feeling scared to eat. It just means being a little more aware of what's on your plate. So let's take this one step at a time, and by the end, you'll have a clear, confident plan for enjoying fish the right way. Most people believe fish is one of the healthiest foods you can eat, especially if you're trying to manage your blood sugar. And that's true for some types, but not all fish are created equal, especially when you're over 50 and living with diabetes. I remember chatting with a patient who had recently made a big dietary change. He proudly told me he stopped eating red meat and switched to fish 5 nights a week. But despite all that effort, his blood sugar was still out of control. He was frustrated and confused. What he didn't realize, and what many people overlook, is that some fish can quietly work against your body, especially if you're trying to manage inflammation, blood pressure, or insulin resistance. These hidden dangers don't show up right away. You won't feel different after one bite. But over time, eating the wrong fish can make it harder for your body to maintain steady blood sugar and may even affect your kidneys, nerves, and heart. Let's start with something most folks don't expect: fat. Certain fish, especially those from deep waters like swordfish or mackerel, are high in fat. Not just the good kind, like omega-3, but also fats that can destabilize your glucose levels. When your body processes high-fat meals, especially those rich in saturated or trans fats, your insulin response slows down. That means sugar stays in your bloodstream longer, which can lead to post-meal spikes. Over time, these spikes wear down your body's ability to regulate glucose, a condition often called insulin resistance. And once insulin resistance sets in, everything becomes harder, from maintaining energy to keeping your weight in check. Now imagine being over 60, dealing with age-related muscle loss, slower metabolism, and maybe even a few medications. Throw in the wrong type of fish on your plate regularly, and your body's already delicate balance gets thrown off even more. Another piece that catches many off guard is mercury. Some popular fish, like swordfish or king mackerel, are known to have high levels of mercury due to pollution in our oceans. This heavy metal doesn't just sit in your body quietly. It can interfere with your nervous system and kidneys. And guess which 2 systems are already vulnerable in most people with type 2 diabetes? Exactly. Add that stress on top of years of managing blood sugar, and it becomes a perfect storm. Mercury also increases oxidative stress in the body, which contributes to chronic inflammation, a key factor that makes managing diabetes even more difficult. So while a dish of fish might look healthy on the outside, what's inside could quietly be raising your blood sugar and damaging organs over time. Let's not forget how the fish is prepared. Even the best types of fish can become unhealthy depending on what we do in the kitchen. Frying, breading, using heavy oils, these turn a light, lean protein into a high-calorie, high-fat trap. When you combine refined carbs from breading with unhealthy oils, your body gets hit with both fast sugars and slow-burning fats at the same time. This mix can cause a delayed yet prolonged blood sugar rise, which may explain why some people feel fine after dinner but wake up in the middle of the night feeling sluggish or foggy. I've heard countless stories from older adults who thought they were doing the right thing, only to learn that the preparation method was sabotaging their health goals. So no, it's not just about which fish you eat. It's also how it's cooked and what it's served with. And then there's the salt problem. Many processed or preserved fish options, like canned tuna or smoked salmon, come packed with sodium. That salt not only raises blood pressure but also contributes to fluid retention and can indirectly impact how insulin functions in your body. Seniors are especially sensitive to these effects, and when combined with diabetic medication, excess sodium can throw everything out of balance. It's not uncommon to see swelling in the legs, disrupted sleep, or an increased feeling of fatigue after meals that seemed innocent but were actually sodium-loaded. That's why even a healthy-sounding lunch of tuna salad or fish sandwich can end up making blood sugar harder to manage if you're not reading the labels or choosing the right preparation. Finally, let's talk about inflammation. As we age, our body naturally produces more inflammatory markers, especially if we have chronic conditions like diabetes, arthritis, or high blood pressure. Eating certain fish can either calm that inflammation or pour fuel on the fire. Fish high in omega-6 fatty acids, like farm-raised tilapia, can promote inflammation when not balanced with omega-3s. That's why many people who eat these fish regularly notice flare-ups in joint pain or digestive issues without realizing it might be connected to what's on their plate. Inflammation makes everything worse. It lowers your body's ability to regulate blood sugar, weakens your immune system, and makes recovery from illness or injury slower. So while fish can be a powerful tool for better health, the wrong type can quietly do the opposite, especially if eaten often without proper knowledge. What's important to understand is that we're not trying to scare you off seafood. We're just peeling back the curtain on some common mistakes many diabetics over 50 unknowingly make. Knowing how specific types of fish affect your body is a huge step toward better health. And now that you understand the hidden risks in certain fish, we're going to start looking closely at each one. Up next, we'll dive deeper into the fish that looks innocent but carries one of the highest mercury levels of all, and why it's especially dangerous for seniors managing diabetes. Imagine walking into a nice seafood restaurant. The waiter recommends the grilled swordfish, firm, flavorful, high in protein. You think to yourself, perfect. No carbs, lots of lean meat. This must be a great choice for my blood sugar. It's a common moment for many seniors trying to make smarter eating decisions. But here's the twist. Swordfish, despite its elegant name and appealing texture, is one of the riskiest choices for people over 50 living with diabetes. Why? The problem isn't what you see on the plate, it's what's hidden inside. Swordfish is known for accumulating high levels of mercury. Mercury is a heavy metal that comes from pollution in oceans and builds up in larger, older fish, especially predators like swordfish. When you eat swordfish regularly, even in small portions, mercury slowly accumulates in your body. It doesn't just pass through like fiber or sugar, it stays. For someone with diabetes, that's a big concern. Mercury targets the nervous system and kidneys, two areas already at higher risk of damage in people with long-term blood sugar problems. Some studies have shown that mercury exposure can worsen insulin resistance, making it harder for your body to use the insulin it already makes. And once that cycle starts, your blood sugar becomes harder to manage, even if your meals look healthy on the outside. But mercury isn't the only hidden threat. Swordfish is also surprisingly high in saturated fats. Yes, it's true that fish in general contain heart-healthy fats, but not all fats are created equal. The type of fat found in swordfish is denser and harder for the body to process, especially for older adults. High saturated fat intake can raise LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, and contribute to fatty liver disease, which is another condition closely linked to type 2 diabetes. Many seniors already struggle with high cholesterol or fatty liver without even knowing it, and swordfish can quietly add to that burden. Add in the fact that this fish is often grilled with oil, butter, or served alongside starchy sides, and you've got a perfect recipe for a post-meal glucose spike. Another concern is how swordfish affects inflammation. Mercury and saturated fats together increase oxidative stress, which leads to more inflammation throughout the body. Inflammation makes diabetes management much harder because it directly disrupts insulin function. It also contributes to fatigue, joint stiffness, and in some cases, sleep problems. I've spoken with many older adults who feel worn out after a healthy dinner of grilled swordfish and vegetables. They assume it's just aging, but often it's the body's response to inflammation. When inflammation is high, the body doesn't recover well, especially overnight. Blood sugar may stay elevated for hours, and insulin resistance quietly worsens over time. There's also the impact on kidney health. The kidneys are already working harder in people with diabetes, and mercury is directly toxic to kidney tissues. Over time, even small amounts of mercury can accumulate and slow down kidney function. Many diabetics don't realize they're in early-stage kidney disease because it doesn't show symptoms right away. But when you consistently eat high-mercury fish like swordfish, you might be accelerating that process without knowing it. Once the kidneys are affected, managing blood pressure becomes harder too. And high blood pressure is another major concern for seniors, especially those with type 2 diabetes. And let's not forget another issue that often goes unnoticed: fatigue. Many older adults report feeling sluggish or mentally foggy, especially after dinner. Sometimes it's chalked up to age or a long day or poor sleep. But mercury exposure is known to affect cognitive function and energy levels, especially in people over 60. That tired feeling after eating swordfish might not be in your head. It could be your brain and body working harder to process a toxic load, while already dealing with unstable blood sugar and inflammation. Now, does that mean swordfish is toxic in every bite? No. But for someone over 50 managing diabetes, watching cholesterol, and trying to avoid inflammation, it's a risky gamble. Especially when there are safer, equally tasty alternatives that don't carry these hidden dangers. The hardest part is that swordfish presents itself as a clean food. It's grilled, it's not breaded, it's served in nice restaurants. But it's the perfect example of how appearances can be deceiving. Many health-conscious seniors unknowingly choose swordfish thinking they're doing their bodies a favor, when in fact they're setting themselves back. This is why understanding the deeper layers of what's on your plate matters, especially as we age. Our bodies change. What worked at 40 may no longer serve us at 65. And food choices that seem healthy may quietly work against our health goals. Swordfish may look elegant, but for people with diabetes, it's a dangerous beauty. In the next section, we'll talk about another popular fish that's just as rich and just as risky. It's one that often shows up in fancy restaurants and home kitchens alike, and it brings with it a different set of problems: oily texture, hidden toxins, and a reputation that doesn't match its reality. When we talk about mercury, most people think of old thermometers or maybe industrial waste, but rarely does anyone think about what's on their dinner plate. The truth is, mercury from polluted oceans finds its way into the food chain, and by the time it gets to large predatory fish like swordfish, the levels are no longer small. These fish live longer, eat other contaminated fish, and absorb more of this toxic metal over time. Now, imagine being someone over 60, living with diabetes where the kidneys and nervous system are already under stress. Adding mercury into the mix, even unintentionally, is like quietly turning up the pressure on two of the most fragile systems in your body. And the tricky part? You won't feel it after one meal or even a few, but over time, the effects build up silently. Your kidneys work around the clock to filter your blood, regulate minerals, and manage waste. If you have diabetes, those kidneys are already doing double duty. High blood sugar puts strain on the delicate filtering units inside, and that strain gets worse if you have high blood pressure or take certain medications. Now, introduce mercury, something the body doesn't eliminate easily, and it starts to accumulate in those already overworked filters. Research shows that even modest mercury exposure can impair kidney function, reduce filtration speed, and lead to signs of early kidney disease. And the scariest part? You often won't know anything is wrong until your doctor runs a test months later, or until swelling, fatigue, or changes in urination appear. At that point, some of the damage may already be done. The nervous system is another silent victim. Mercury affects how nerves fire, especially the small peripheral nerves that help regulate sensation, coordination, and even digestion. People with diabetes already deal with a condition called diabetic neuropathy, which causes tingling, numbness, or pain, usually in the feet and hands. When mercury is added to the picture, it can intensify those symptoms. Some people start to feel more clumsy or drop things more often. Others find their balance isn't quite what it used to be. One gentleman told me he thought it was just aging, until he stopped eating high-mercury fish for a few months and noticed his hands steadied a bit, and his foot pain became less intense. We can't say it's only the mercury, but it certainly wasn't helping. What makes mercury especially dangerous is its effect on inflammation. It triggers the body's immune response, raising levels of inflammatory proteins that can worsen insulin resistance. That means your body doesn't use insulin as efficiently, so even when you eat right, your blood sugar stays high. You might wonder why your A1C won't come down, even though your portions are small and your carbs are in check. For some, hidden inflammation may be part of the answer, and mercury contributes to that inflammation quietly every time it builds up in your cells. Let's also talk about the mental effects, which many people in their 50s and 60s start to notice but often brush off. Mercury can cross the blood-brain barrier and affect memory, mood, and focus. It's not unusual to feel foggy or forgetful after consistent mercury exposure. For someone already juggling the demands of managing diabetes, checking blood sugar, remembering medications, tracking meals, those little lapses in memory can make daily life harder. Over time, low-level mercury accumulation has been linked to increased risk of cognitive decline, especially when combined with other chronic conditions. That's why for older adults, what may seem like a small dietary habit, eating swordfish once a week, can quietly push long-term brain and nerve health in the wrong direction. It's not just about avoiding swordfish completely. The bigger point is knowing what fish to limit, especially when your body is already doing its best to stay balanced. Many people with diabetes feel tired not just from their condition, but from the invisible burdens they carry in their meals: mercury, sodium, inflammation, unhealthy fats. And it's not their fault. Most of these risks aren't clearly labeled, and the idea that fish is healthy is so ingrained that few ever question it. But once you understand how something like mercury can harm your kidneys, nerves, and even your mind, it becomes easier to make safer choices. Ones that protect your energy and health instead of quietly draining them. As we continue this journey, we'll move beyond swordfish and look at another popular fish that many people think is heart healthy. It's oily, rich, and often praised for its omega-3 content. But it comes with its own set of concerns, especially for older adults managing blood sugar, inflammation, and weight. In the next part, we'll explore the truth about mackerel and why what you don't know about it might be doing more harm than good. For many folks over 50 trying to eat healthier, mackerel feels like a good choice. It's often featured in heart-healthy diets and praised for its high omega-3 content. You might see it grilled, canned, or even served in high-end restaurants. It's flavorful, rich, and satisfying. A fish that seems to do everything right. But when it comes to managing blood sugar, inflammation, and long-term diabetic health, mackerel can quietly become a problem, especially if you don't know where it came from or how much you're eating. The truth is, not all mackerel is created equal. Some types are safer than others, but several varieties, particularly king mackerel, are known to be among the highest in mercury. That's already a red flag for older adults with diabetes. And the deeper we look, the more we realize how this oily fish can stir up more issues than benefits if we're not careful. First, let's talk about contamination. Mackerel is often caught in waters that are increasingly polluted by industrial and agricultural waste. These waters can be filled with heavy metals, pesticides, and other toxins. Fish absorb those contaminants as they feed, and because mackerel are relatively high up the food chain, they accumulate more of it. That means when you eat mackerel, especially types from questionable sources, You might be ingesting mercury, lead, or even PCBs, which are chemicals known to disrupt hormones and immune function. For someone living with diabetes, where the immune system is already under stress and the body is more prone to inflammation, this exposure can make things worse. You might feel more tired, deal with more aches, or find that your blood sugar becomes harder to control, even when your meals look balanced on paper. Then there's the fat content. Mackerel is an oily fish, rich in both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. While omega-3 is widely known for reducing inflammation, omega-6 can do the opposite when consumed in excess. The problem isn't that omega-6 is bad, we need some of it. But when it outweighs omega-3, as it often does in processed and farmed versions of mackerel, the result is a pro-inflammatory environment in the body. Inflammation doesn't just affect joints and energy. It directly interferes with insulin function. That means more sugar stays in your bloodstream after meals, even if you're not eating many carbs. Over time, chronic low-grade inflammation can wear down your cell's ability to absorb glucose, leading to higher fasting blood sugar and A1C levels. And the frustrating part? You might not feel sick. Many people just feel off or more tired than usual and chalk it up to age. Weight control is another hidden issue. Mackerel is calorie-dense. Just a small fillet can pack hundreds of calories, especially if it's cooked in oil or comes in a can with added fats. For seniors trying to manage their weight as part of blood sugar control, this becomes a trap. You think you're having a light meal, but your daily calorie load increases without you realizing it. Excess calories from fatty fish can sneak up fast, and over time, that extra weight, especially around the belly, can worsen insulin resistance and elevate blood pressure. A patient once told me she was eating clean but couldn't lose a single pound. When we looked at her meals, mackerel was showing up 3 times a week. She had no idea that oily fish, even healthy ones, could push her weight in the wrong direction when portion sizes weren't watched closely. Let's not forget the role of digestion. As we age, our digestive system slows down. Rich, oily foods like mackerel can feel heavy or cause discomfort, especially when combined with other fats or starches. Some seniors notice more bloating, indigestion, or even reflux after eating oily fish, which disrupts sleep and overall comfort. And when your sleep is affected, blood sugar tends to follow. Poor rest leads to higher morning glucose and more cravings the next day, creating a cycle that many older adults know all too well. The good news is that not all mackerel is harmful. Smaller varieties like Atlantic mackerel tend to be lower in mercury and can be safer when eaten in moderation. But unless the label clearly states the source, and most don't, it's easy to end up with the wrong kind. And when you're dealing with diabetes, even small missteps in food choices can lead to big frustrations over time. That's why knowing not just the name of the fish, but its fat profile, mercury risk, and sourcing is so important. It's not about being perfect, it's about being informed so your food works for your health, not against it. Now that we've looked at how mackerel can trigger inflammation and sneak in unwanted toxins, let's move on to another pantry staple that many people rely on without thinking twice. It's convenient, lasts forever, and feels like a smart protein option. But if you're not checking the label carefully, canned tuna could be quietly adding sodium, unhealthy fats, and blood sugar trouble to your plate. In the next part, we'll break down exactly what to look for and what to avoid when it comes to this common diabetic go-to. We often hear about omega-3 as a miracle nutrient, good for your heart, great for your brain, and even helpful in lowering inflammation. For many people with diabetes, that sounds like exactly what they need. And it's true, omega-3s from fish can offer real health benefits. But here's something we don't talk about enough. When omega-3 is consumed in the wrong form, from the wrong source, or in excessive amounts without balance, it can quietly backfire. Especially for seniors over 50 living with diabetes, the effects of too much or the wrong kind of omega-3 can create more harm than good if we're not paying attention. It's not that omega-3 is bad. It's that context matters. Let's start with the basics. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in fatty fish like mackerel, sardines, and salmon, are known to reduce inflammation, improve heart health, and support brain function. But not all fish oils are the same. Some types of oily fish, especially when farm-raised, come with contaminants like mercury or PCBs that counteract the benefits of omega-3s. If your body is getting omega-3s along with heavy metals or unhealthy fats, your system ends up fighting on two fronts, trying to lower inflammation while also dealing with toxins. For someone managing blood sugar and nerve sensitivity, this creates stress on multiple systems at once. It's like pouring water on a fire while someone else is throwing gasoline on it. Many older adults don't realize that the source of their omega-3s may be part of the problem, not the solution. Next, let's talk about quantity. Some seniors hear that omega-3 is good and start eating oily fish several times a week, or they add high-dose supplements without proper guidance. That's where things can get tricky. Omega-3s are still fats, and fats are calorie-dense. When eaten in excess, they can slow digestion and delay glucose processing after meals. This delayed spike often causes confusion. Your blood sugar might look normal 1 hour after eating, then suddenly shoot up later in the day. These delayed reactions are common in people over 50, especially when metabolism slows down. If you're eating more fat than your body can process efficiently, even the healthy kind, it can still create unpredictable blood sugar patterns. There's also the issue of bleeding risk. Many older adults take medications like aspirin or blood thinners for heart protection. Omega-3s in high amounts can enhance those blood thinning effects, which can increase bruising or risk of internal bleeding, especially during dental work, minor falls, or even simple bumps. This may not seem connected to diabetes at first glance, but any added complication can make managing a chronic condition more difficult. For example, if bruising makes someone skip their daily walk or gentle movement, their blood sugar may become less stable due to reduced activity. Then there's the often overlooked balance between omega-3 and omega-6. These two fats are supposed to work together. But in a modern diet filled with vegetable oils, snacks, and processed foods, omega-6 tends to be dominant. If you're adding even more omega-3 without addressing omega-6 overload, it won't necessarily restore balance. In fact, your body may still remain in a state of chronic inflammation, especially if most omega-3 comes from fish that's not wild-caught or comes with added toxins. A lot of fish marketed as healthy is raised on artificial feed in crowded pens, and the oil it contains doesn't have the same anti-inflammatory power as wild fish swimming in clean waters. Some people also forget that fish oil, when oxidized, meaning it's gone slightly rancid, can do more harm than good. This is especially true in supplements, but also in certain preserved fish like canned mackerel or sardines. If the oil smells fishy or leaves a bitter aftertaste, it may already be breaking down. When oxidized omega-3s enter the body, they trigger oxidative stress, not healing. That leads to more inflammation, higher blood sugar, and fatigue, the exact opposite of what seniors with diabetes are aiming for. I remember one patient in her early 60s who was faithfully taking a daily fish oil capsule and eating salmon 3 times a week. Her cholesterol looked better, but she was constantly bloated, sleepy after meals, and struggled with stubborn belly fat. When we dug into her habits, we realized the fish oil brand wasn't third-party tested, the salmon was farmed, and she wasn't getting any fiber to help her body process all the fat. Once she shifted to smaller portions, chose wild fish, and paired her meals with leafy greens and herbs like ginger or turmeric, her energy lifted, and her blood sugar started behaving again. It's not about removing omega-3, it's about using it wisely. For people over 50, especially with diabetes, every bite either helps or hinders long-term health. Omega-3 is still a valuable tool, but only when it's balanced, clean, and paired with a lifestyle that supports digestion and stable glucose. The moment we lose sight of that, even the so-called healthy foods can start to work against us. So if you've been reaching for fatty fish every day or adding supplements without a full picture, it may be time to pause and consider the bigger context. Now that we've explored how even a good thing like omega-3 can go sideways without the right approach, let's shift to something a lot more convenient but just as sneaky: canned tuna. It's a go-to for many older adults looking for quick, easy protein. But inside those small tins are a few hidden problems that can quietly throw off your blood sugar, heart health, and kidney function, especially if you're not reading the label closely. Canned tuna has earned a reputation as one of the most convenient healthy foods. It's affordable, lasts forever in the pantry, and is often seen as a smart option for people trying to eat better. For many older adults, especially those living with diabetes, it's the go-to lunch. A quick tuna sandwich, a scoop over greens, maybe mixed with a bit of mayo and crackers on the side. Sounds simple and safe, right? But here's the catch: while tuna can offer some good protein and low-carb benefits, the hidden ingredients in most canned varieties can quietly work against your blood sugar, heart health, and kidneys. And because it feels like such a light meal, we often don't think twice about how often we eat it or what type we're actually buying. Let's start with the most common mistake: not checking what the tuna is packed in. Many canned tuna products come in oil, not just any oil, but often soybean oil or vegetable blends that are high in omega-6 fatty acids. These oils are cheap and increase shelf life, but they also increase inflammation in the body when consumed in excess. As we mentioned earlier, inflammation is a major driver of insulin resistance, making it harder for your body to keep blood sugar stable. A small can of tuna packed in oil may seem like a better choice because it feels more filling, but that oil can be a hidden reason for stubborn blood sugar numbers or that bloated, sluggish feeling after lunch. For people over 50, especially those already dealing with inflammation-related conditions like arthritis or heart disease, this added omega-6 can quietly add fuel to the fire. Next comes the issue of sodium. Most people don't realize that a single can of tuna can contain 300 to 400 milligrams of sodium, or even more if it's flavored or preserved. For seniors managing both blood sugar and blood pressure, that's a big deal. High sodium intake not only raises your blood pressure, but can also cause fluid retention, which affects kidney function and increases strain on the heart. When you're eating tuna a few times a week and not watching the salt content elsewhere in your diet, it's easy to go over the recommended limit. Many people with diabetes already have slightly compromised kidney function, even if their lab tests still look okay. But over time, excess sodium can push those kidneys into decline faster than expected, especially when paired with dehydration or other medications. Then there's mercury. While tuna doesn't contain as much as swordfish or king mackerel, certain types, especially albacore, also labeled white tuna, have significantly more mercury than light tuna. That means choosing the wrong variety repeatedly can lead to the same nervous system and kidney risks we discussed earlier. Seniors with diabetes are especially vulnerable because their bodies are already under pressure. Mercury interferes with how nerves communicate, which can worsen diabetic neuropathy, those painful tingles or numbness in the hands and feet. It also affects cognition, mood, and memory, which is already something many people over 60 are trying to protect. And we haven't even talked about additives. Some flavored or pre-mixed canned tuna options include sugars, preservatives, and artificial flavorings that aren't always easy to spot on the label. Even if the front of the can says no added sugar, the ingredients list might tell a different story. For someone managing type 2 diabetes, even small, uncounted amounts of sugar or preservatives can throw off blood sugar for the rest of the day. The trouble is, tuna feels like a safe food, so people rarely look twice at the label, especially if it's something they've been eating for decades. Portion size is another hidden trap. One standard can is about 5 ounces, but many older adults eat the whole thing in one meal, thinking they're keeping it light. That's a lot of protein, fat, and sodium in a single sitting, especially when it's mixed with mayonnaise, served on white bread, or paired with salty crackers. The combined load can make digestion sluggish, blood sugar unstable, and blood pressure harder to control. I've met patients who felt confident they were doing the right thing, only to be shocked when we broke down their lunch choices and saw how everything added up. Still, it's not about demonizing tuna. When chosen carefully, it can still be part of a balanced diabetic diet. Look for cans labeled light tuna in water, preferably with low sodium or no salt added. These versions are lower in mercury, lighter in inflammatory fats, and easier on the kidneys and heart. Pairing tuna with high-fiber veggies, olive oil, and whole grains can help slow digestion and stabilize glucose. But the key is knowing that not all tuna is the same, and that what looks like a healthy shortcut could quietly be working against your goals if you're not reading the fine print. Understanding how tuna affects your body is one of those small but powerful insights that can change the way you eat, especially if you're over 50 and juggling multiple health priorities. The food you rely on the most is often the one worth revisiting with fresh eyes. And as we continue this journey, the next fish we'll look at is one of the most popular in American kitchens. Tilapia is praised for being mild, low in calories, and affordable. But beneath that clean image lies a mix of nutritional imbalances and farming practices that might be doing more harm than you think. Many seniors living with diabetes reach for canned tuna thinking it's a safe, reliable protein source. And on the surface, it seems like a good idea. No cooking required, low in carbs, easy to mix into a salad or a sandwich. But what often goes unnoticed is the sodium hiding inside that little can. For someone over 50 managing both blood sugar and blood pressure, that sodium isn't just a small concern. It can quietly become a major health risk. Especially when eaten frequently, the salt in canned tuna doesn't just raise blood pressure. It also affects how your body handles insulin, leading to more glucose swings, water retention, and long-term complications you might not see coming. The problem starts with how tuna is processed and preserved. Most commercial tuna is packed in brine or salted water to help extend shelf life and enhance flavor. Even plain tuna can contain 250 to 400 milligrams of sodium per serving, and that's often per half can, not the full portion many people eat. Some flavored options, like lemon pepper or spicy varieties, can shoot that number even higher, over 600 milligrams in just one small tin. That's nearly a third of the daily sodium limit in a single sitting. For seniors, whose kidneys naturally decline in filtering power as we age, this extra salt builds up quickly and causes more than just thirst. It leads to swelling in the ankles, puffiness in the face, and more pressure on the blood vessels, which are already under stress from high blood sugar. Sodium also affects insulin sensitivity. Studies show that a diet high in salt can increase insulin resistance, making it harder for glucose to move from the bloodstream into cells where it's needed. That means even if your meals are low in sugar, your body may struggle to use insulin effectively if salt intake is too high. And that's particularly true when sodium is paired with low fiber, a combination we often see when someone has tuna with white bread, crackers, or mayo. This pairing causes a short-term blood sugar spike and long-term instability. The frustrating part is that people believe they're making a healthy choice, but the combination of refined carbs and sodium works silently against their progress. There's also the issue of fluid balance. High sodium draws more water into your bloodstream, increasing blood volume and raising blood pressure. For diabetics, especially older adults, this can accelerate the progression of heart disease and kidney strain. Some people notice they wake up with swollen fingers or find their shoes feel tighter by evening. Others experience headaches, brain fog, or shortness of breath, symptoms that often go unlinked to what they had for lunch. I once spoke with a retired teacher who couldn't understand why her blood pressure kept rising, even though she had cut out chips and processed meats. It turned out she was eating canned tuna 4 times a week, always in brine, and often paired with salty condiments like pickles or cheese. Once she switched to low-sodium tuna and added cucumbers and olive oil instead of processed toppings, her blood pressure readings dropped within weeks. The bigger danger, though, is that sodium-related damage builds slowly. Your kidneys might keep up for a while, but over time, the constant filtering of extra salt wears down those tiny blood vessels. In diabetics, this process is already faster than average. Add years of unnoticed sodium excess, and the risk of chronic kidney disease rises significantly. That's why doctors now look closely at sodium intake when a diabetic patient shows early signs of kidney stress, even when their blood sugar seems mostly controlled. So what's the solution? It's not about giving up tuna altogether. It's about making smarter choices and reading labels carefully. Tuna packed in water with no salt added is available in most grocery stores, though you may have to look on the top or bottom shelves to find them. These options often contain less than 70 milligrams of sodium per serving, a big difference from their standard counterparts. Adding fresh herbs, lemon juice, or avocado can enhance flavor without relying on salt. And instead of mayo, many people over 50 find that mashed chickpeas or Greek yogurt give the same creaminess with less sodium and better blood sugar support. Even adding potassium-rich foods like spinach or tomatoes can help balance the effects of salt by helping your body flush out excess sodium more efficiently. Food habits are built over a lifetime, and tuna has long been part of that routine for many older adults. But small shifts can make a big difference, especially when you're managing multiple health concerns. Choosing low-sodium versions, watching portion sizes, and pairing tuna with fiber-rich or anti-inflammatory foods can transform a risky habit into a healing one. The good news is, you don't need to reinvent your diet. You just need to pay closer attention to the hidden ingredients that affect your long-term health more than you realize. In the next section, we'll turn our attention to a fish that's loved for its affordability and mild taste: tilapia. It's often seen as a lean protein and a great alternative to red meat. But what most people don't know is that tilapia's nutritional profile and the way it's farmed can create a new set of risks for older adults with diabetes. From imbalanced fats to farming chemicals, tilapia might not be as innocent as it looks. Tilapia is one of the most popular fish in America, especially among older adults looking for a lean, affordable protein that's easy to cook and easy to digest. You'll find it in grocery store freezers, restaurant menus, and even in many senior meal plans. It doesn't have a strong smell, it cooks quickly, and it pairs well with just about anything, from salads to rice bowls. On the surface, tilapia seems like the perfect choice for people managing diabetes. But behind that mild flavor and low price tag lies a nutritional imbalance that often goes unnoticed. One that may quietly fuel weight gain, worsen inflammation, and disrupt blood sugar control in people over 50. Let's start with the fat profile. Many people choose tilapia assuming it's a heart-healthy fish because it's lower in fat than salmon or mackerel. And while it is low in total fat, the type of fat it contains is what raises concern. Tilapia is high in omega-6 fatty acids, a type of fat that, when not balanced properly with omega-3s, promotes inflammation in the body. And most tilapia sold in the US today is farm-raised, which makes this imbalance even worse. The diets used in fish farms often include corn, soy, and other grains that increase omega-6 content and lower omega-3s. That means instead of fighting inflammation like salmon does, tilapia may actually contribute to it, especially when eaten frequently without other anti-inflammatory foods to balance it out. Why does that matter for someone with diabetes? Because inflammation plays a central role in insulin resistance. When your body is inflamed, your cells become less responsive to insulin, causing glucose to stay in the bloodstream longer. That leads to higher fasting glucose, unpredictable spikes after meals, and more pressure on the pancreas. Many people over 50 notice that even though they're eating light foods like tilapia and vegetables, their blood sugar doesn't seem to improve. part of that puzzle may be the constant low-grade inflammation driven by omega-6 heavy meals. Over time, this inflammation can affect not just blood sugar, but joints, sleep, mood, and energy levels. Then there's the weight gain issue. Tilapia doesn't seem like a food that would cause weight gain. It's low in calories, right? But here's where the body's chemistry plays a role. Inflammation affects the hormones that regulate hunger and fat storage, like leptin and cortisol. When inflammation is high, the body tends to store more fat, especially around the belly. And belly fat is the most dangerous kind. It raises blood sugar, increases blood pressure, and puts you at higher risk for heart disease. Several seniors I've spoken with were baffled by stubborn weight around their midsection. They had cut carbs, exercised, and even skipped meals, but the scale didn't move. One thing they all had in common: tilapia showed up in their diet almost every day. Once they switched to less inflammatory proteins and added more greens, nuts, and omega-3 rich foods, the weight began to shift. Let's not forget how tilapia is farmed. Most tilapia sold in the US is imported from large fish farms in countries where regulations are different. These farms often use crowded tanks, low-quality feed, and even antibiotics or chemicals to keep the fish alive in unhealthy conditions. Some of these substances remain in the fish tissue, and while they may be within legal limits, they still enter your body when you eat them. Over time, these residues may affect gut health, immunity, and how your body processes other foods. Seniors with diabetes are especially sensitive to these hidden stressors, and their bodies may react with fatigue, digestive issues, or trouble sleeping, all of which make blood sugar harder to manage. Now, that doesn't mean tilapia is always bad. If it's wild-caught or raised in clean, well-regulated environments, and eaten occasionally with plenty of fiber and healthy fats, it can still be part of a balanced diet. But the reality is, most tilapia on American plates doesn't meet those standards. It's farmed, high in omega-6, and often the only fish in rotation for seniors trying to eat clean. And when eaten repeatedly without enough variety or anti-inflammatory support, it can do more harm than good over time. Many people in their 60s and 70s are trying hard to take control of their health. They're reading labels, avoiding sugar, and choosing lean proteins like tilapia. That effort deserves credit. But the body is more complex than calories in and out. The type of fat, the source of the food, and how it interacts with chronic inflammation all matter deeply, especially for someone managing diabetes. Understanding that omega-6 imbalance isn't just a theoretical issue. It's a real day-to-day obstacle to feeling better. In the next section, we'll go even deeper into how farm-raised tilapia brings another layer of risk: chemical contamination. From antibiotics to water quality, the farming environment changes what's on your plate and what it does inside your body. If you've ever wondered why you're doing everything right but still feel off, this next part may provide the missing piece. When most people think about fish farming, they imagine clean tanks, clear water, and healthy fish swimming in neat rows. The reality, however, is often much messier, especially when it comes to the kind of farmed tilapia found in stores across the US. For seniors managing diabetes, this matters more than it may seem. You're not just eating fish, you're also consuming everything that fish ate and absorbed while it was being raised. That includes low-quality feed, crowded water conditions, and, in many cases, chemicals or antibiotics used to keep the fish alive in stressful environments. Over time, these substances can quietly affect your gut, immune system, and blood sugar balance, especially if tilapia is a regular part of your diet. Let's take a closer look at how most farmed tilapia is raised. Because tilapia grows fast and tolerates crowded conditions, it's become one of the world's most mass-produced fish. In many operations, especially overseas where most of the US supply comes from, the fish are kept in densely packed pens or shallow ponds. In such tight quarters, disease and parasites spread quickly. To keep the fish from dying, some farms add antibiotics to the water or feed. Others may use chemical disinfectants or antifungals. These substances can leave residues in the fish tissue, even after freezing and cooking. While legal limits are supposed to keep these levels safe, those standards don't always account for long-term effects in people with chronic conditions like diabetes, or for the slower detox systems that come with age. For seniors over 50, especially those already managing inflammation or blood pressure medications, these residues may add one more burden the body must filter out. Some people may feel this as fatigue, poor digestion, or brain fog. Others might notice skin irritation, increased joint pain, or even more frequent blood sugar spikes after meals that should be healthy. That's because these chemicals don't just wash out. They interact with your gut microbiome, your body's internal balance of good and bad bacteria, which plays a critical role in blood sugar regulation, immune function, and even mood. When that gut balance is thrown off, everything else becomes harder to control. One retired nurse I spoke with ate tilapia 3 times a week because it was low cost and easy to prepare. But she also struggled with bloating, unpredictable blood sugar, and frequent headaches. When she switched to cleaner protein sources and included more fermented vegetables like kimchi and yogurt, her symptoms started to ease, and so did her glucose levels. Another hidden risk is the feed. Farm tilapia are often fed processed pellets made from soy, corn, or even animal byproducts. Not what these fish would eat in the wild. That unnatural diet alters their fat composition, increases omega-6 levels, and reduces the anti-inflammatory power we usually associate with fish. You're eating what the fish ate, and in this case, it's a lot of grain and very little natural nutrition. Some farms also use color additives or synthetic enhancers to make the fish appear fresher or more appealing, even when the nutritional quality is lacking. These extras may be invisible to the eye, but over time, they can add to your body's toxic load, especially when eaten week after week by someone already dealing with diabetes, hypertension, or digestive concerns. It's also important to understand that not all fish labeled farmed is created equal. Some US-based or certified organic tilapia farms use cleaner practices, filtered water, and natural feed. But these products are often more expensive and harder to find. The bulk of tilapia found in supermarkets comes from massive overseas operations where regulations vary, and where consumer transparency is limited. You may never know how that fish was raised, what it ate, or what chemicals it was exposed to before it landed on your plate. And for older adults trying to protect their health, that uncertainty becomes a real concern. Now, let's talk about the long-term picture. For someone managing type 2 diabetes in their 60s or 70s, the daily focus is usually on blood sugar numbers, medications, and maybe heart health. But underneath those daily choices is a larger pattern. What's going into your body, day after day, meal after meal. When your body is already working harder due to age, insulin resistance, or kidney strain, any added burden, whether it's from chemical residues, unnatural fats, or low-grade inflammation, can slowly chip away at your progress. The frustrating part is it's not always easy to link symptoms like fatigue or bloating to the food that caused it. But once you remove the source, many people notice the difference. That's why the goal here isn't to make anyone afraid of eating fish. It's to help you become a more informed eater, choosing better sourced fish, reducing frequency, and rotating in other clean proteins like lentils, wild salmon, or organic chicken can protect your body from exposure you didn't even know was happening. When you feed your body well, it doesn't have to fight as hard, and that makes managing diabetes easier, more consistent, and far less frustrating. Next, we're going to look at something that flips the story completely. We've talked about types of fish that seem healthy but cause hidden harm. But what about when a healthy fish is made harmful by the way it's cooked? In the next section, we'll dive into fried cod, a classic comfort food that goes from nourishing to dangerous the moment it hits the pan of hot oil. Cod is one of those fish that shows up in comfort food classics all over America. It's mild, flaky, and easy to season. Whether it's a fish fry on Friday night, a plate of fish and chips at a diner, or homemade fish sticks from the freezer, cod feels familiar, and often it feels like a better choice than red meat or processed meals. For many older adults trying to eat lighter, fried cod is a safe default. But here's what most people don't realize. The moment cod gets breaded and dropped into hot oil, it transforms from a lean, low-calorie fish into a heavy, inflammation-driving meal that can spike your blood sugar, increase belly fat, and quietly push your health in the wrong direction, especially if you're managing diabetes. Let's break it down, starting with the breading. That golden crust we all love is usually made with refined flour or breadcrumbs, simple carbohydrates that break down into sugar almost immediately after eating. When you pair that with the fact that cod itself is low in fat and fiber, there's nothing in the meal to slow down how fast those carbs hit your bloodstream. The result? A rapid glucose spike that can leave you feeling energized for a moment, then drained and foggy shortly after. For people with diabetes, especially those over 50, these quick swings in blood sugar become harder to recover from. Over time, repeated spikes wear down your body's insulin response, increasing the risk of complications and making it harder to keep your numbers steady throughout the day. Now let's look at the oil. Frying cod in vegetable oil, often reused in restaurant kitchens, introduces trans fats and oxidized oils into your body. These fats don't just increase your cholesterol, they also drive inflammation and can worsen insulin resistance. Your body treats these damaged fats like a threat. The immune system responds with low-grade inflammation that affects everything from blood vessels to joints to your ability to absorb glucose properly. Seniors who eat fried food regularly may not notice the immediate impact, but they often describe feeling sluggish, bloated, or more stiff the next day. That's your body reacting to the metabolic stress of trying to process something it sees as harmful. Then there's the belly fat issue. Fried foods are calorie-dense, much more than they appear on the plate. A single fried cod fillet can carry 300 to 500 calories, depending on how it's prepared. Add fries, tartar sauce, or a soft roll, and you're looking at a meal that's pushing 800 to 1,000 calories. For older adults with a slower metabolism, those extra calories often go straight to storage, especially around the abdomen. This visceral fat isn't just cosmetic. It's metabolically active, meaning it releases hormones that worsen blood sugar control and increase the risk of heart disease. Many people with diabetes struggle with belly fat even when they're eating small portions, and fried foods like cod can be a big reason why that fat sticks around. Another overlooked problem is how fried foods affect digestion. The combination of grease and starch slows gastric emptying and can lead to bloating, gas, or discomfort, especially for those with sensitive stomachs or a history of acid reflux. Poor digestion doesn't just make you uncomfortable. It can also affect how your body absorbs nutrients from other meals, making you feel less nourished even if you're eating regularly. And when digestion is off, so is your energy. It's no coincidence that many seniors feel heavy or sleepy after a fried fish lunch, then end up skipping their afternoon walk or craving sugar a few hours later. That missed movement and added craving just set the stage for another round of blood sugar instability. Fried cod also tends to be high in sodium. Whether it's from the batter, the seasoning, or the dipping sauces, you're often getting hundreds of milligrams of salt with each serving. For someone managing both diabetes and high blood pressure, that extra sodium adds up fast. It increases fluid retention, makes it harder for the kidneys to filter waste, and raises blood pressure, all of which create more work for a body already under stress. You may feel puffier, notice your rings feel tighter, or see your blood pressure creeping up after meals that seem simple but are actually loaded with salt. All of this becomes even more concerning when fried cod becomes a regular habit. Maybe it's a Friday tradition or something you grab at the grocery deli when you're too tired to cook. But each time it shows up on your plate, it's adding to a pattern. One that makes weight loss harder, blood sugar more unpredictable, and inflammation more persistent. For older adults with diabetes, breaking this pattern isn't about giving up comfort food. It's about finding better ways to enjoy it. Baked or air-fried cod without the breading can still be flavorful and satisfying. Pairing it with steamed greens, lentils, or a small portion of sweet potato can help balance blood sugar and support digestion. Adding anti-inflammatory herbs like dill, turmeric, or lemon zest can also give your meal the flavor you want without the damage you don't. And if you're craving that crispy texture, consider using crushed oats or almond flour instead of white breadcrumbs, and cooking in a light coating of olive oil instead of deep frying. Understanding how fried cod affects your blood sugar, inflammation, and fat storage is one more way to take control of your meals, especially at a stage of life when small shifts make a big difference. Next, we'll look more closely at what happens when breading and oil combine, and why that duo, common in so many innocent meals, can quietly work against everything you're trying to achieve with your diabetic diet. There's something comforting about crispy, golden food. Whether it's fried cod, fish sticks, or battered shrimp, the combination of crunchy breading and hot oil creates flavors and textures that many of us grew up with. For older adults, especially those managing diabetes, these meals often carry emotional weight, memories of family dinners, church gatherings, or that go-to fish sandwich from the local diner. But underneath that familiar crunch lies a dangerous duo: refined breading and reused frying oil. This pairing may be one of the most harmful combinations for heart health, especially for seniors over 50 dealing with blood sugar issues, high cholesterol, or hypertension. It's not just about extra calories, it's about what these two ingredients do to your arteries, your insulin response, and your long-term cardiovascular risk. Let's begin with the breading. Most commercial breading is made from white flour, cornmeal, or ultra-processed crumbs, all of which break down quickly into glucose once digested. That means within an hour of eating, your blood sugar can surge, especially if the meal lacks fiber or healthy fats to slow absorption. For people with diabetes, this kind of rapid spike is a major red flag. It causes stress on the pancreas, leads to insulin surges, and often results in the dreaded blood sugar crash a few hours later. Many seniors notice they feel tired, foggy, or irritable in the late afternoon after having something like a fried fish sandwich for lunch. They often assume it's aging or poor sleep, but in many cases, it's the body reacting to a meal that raised blood sugar too fast, then dropped it too low. Now add oil to that picture, specifically the kind used in most frying. Restaurants and packaged foods often use cheap vegetable oils like soybean, corn, or canola oil. These oils are high in omega-6 fats, which, when consumed in excess, fuel chronic inflammation. Worse, frying at high temperatures causes these oils to oxidize, creating harmful compounds that damage blood vessels. For someone over 50 with diabetes, these oxidized fats contribute to a condition called endothelial dysfunction, where the lining of your artery stops working properly. This dysfunction is a precursor to high blood pressure, stroke, and heart attack. So that crispy breading? It's not just raising your glucose, it's damaging the very blood vessels you need to stay healthy and strong. And here's where things get even more concerning. Fried breading soaks up oil. A plain piece of fish might have 150 calories and 1 gram of fat. But once you bread and fry it, that number can triple. That's hundreds of extra calories, most of them coming from fat that offers no real nutritional benefit. These fats don't fill you up or give you lasting energy. Instead, they get stored, usually as visceral fat around the belly. For diabetics, belly fat is especially dangerous. It increases inflammation, worsens insulin resistance, and raises the risk of fatty liver disease. One man I knew was eating small portions, skipping dessert, and walking daily, but couldn't get his waistline under control. Once he cut back on fried foods, especially fish and chicken, he started to see results in both his weight and his morning blood sugar numbers. We also can't ignore the sodium problem. Breading mixes and pre-fried frozen items are often loaded with salt, not just for flavor, but to preserve texture and shelf life. A serving of fried fish from a restaurant can contain more than 800 milligrams of sodium. When paired with sides like fries, tartar sauce, or coleslaw, That number can easily top 1,200 milligrams, more than half of what's recommended for an entire day. High sodium increases water retention, raises blood pressure, and puts strain on the kidneys, especially in people with diabetes who already have reduced kidney filtration capacity. If you've noticed swelling in your ankles or puffy hands after a fried meal, your body is likely holding on to excess fluid in response to the salt and grease it just received. Another problem that often gets overlooked is the impact of repeated exposure. Fried fish might be a once-a-week treat, but for many seniors, it's part of a routine. Maybe it's a Friday tradition, a fast food fallback, or something they eat when too tired to cook. Over time, this regular exposure to refined carbs and oxidized oils keeps inflammation elevated, blood sugar unstable, and the heart under silent attack. The effects may not be immediate, but they're cumulative. The arteries slowly stiffen, the waist slowly expands, the energy slowly fades. That doesn't mean you have to give up crunchy food forever. There are safer ways to enjoy texture and flavor. Baking or air frying with a light coating of almond flour, oat bran, or crushed flaxseed can create a crispy crust without the blood sugar spike. Using olive oil spray instead of deep frying lowers your fat load and protects your heart. Pairing your meal with high-fiber vegetables like broccoli or kale helps slow digestion and cushion your glucose curve. And seasoning with herbs instead of salt protects your kidneys and keeps your taste buds happy. As we age, the small choices add up. A better breading, a lighter oil, a smarter plate. These shifts may seem minor, but for someone managing diabetes, they can be the difference between steady progress and daily frustration. In the next section, we'll shift from problems to solutions. Let's talk about the cooking methods that support stable blood sugar, protect your heart, and let you keep enjoying fish without the dangerous downsides. After talking so much about the risks of fried fish and processed meals, it's time to take a breath and talk about what does work. Because the good news is this: fish can still be one of the healthiest proteins for people over 50, especially those managing diabetes if it's prepared the right way. Cooking methods make a bigger difference than most folks realize. It's not just what fish you eat, it's how you treat it in the kitchen that can mean the difference between steady blood sugar and an unexpected spike, between reducing inflammation and fueling it. So let's explore how seniors can keep enjoying fish without the blood sugar drama, heart strain, or digestive discomfort that so often comes from breading, deep frying, or reheating fast food. One of the best methods for people with diabetes is baking. Baking fish at a moderate temperature, say 350 to 400 degrees, preserves its natural moisture, requires no added sugar or flour, and allows the healthy fats, like omega-3s, to stay intact. Whether it's salmon, trout, cod, or tilapia, a simple bake with lemon juice, garlic, rosemary, or dill can make a dish both flavorful and anti-inflammatory. Unlike frying, baking doesn't oxidize oils or introduce extra calories through soaked breading. And for seniors with slower digestion, baked fish tends to be gentler on the stomach, meaning you won't feel bloated or heavy afterward. That smoother digestion helps with overall blood sugar balance, because when your gut is calm, your glucose tends to follow. Another powerful option is steaming. While less common in Western kitchens, steaming is a favorite in many Asian households for a reason. It uses no oil, keeps the fish tender, and preserves delicate nutrients like vitamin D and selenium, both of which support immune function and blood sugar regulation. Steamed fish pairs wonderfully with vegetables like bok choy, spinach, or zucchini, creating a full plate that's low in carbs but high in fiber and antioxidants. Seniors who find grilled or baked meals too dry often enjoy the softness and moisture of steamed fish, which is easier to chew and doesn't require any sauces to taste good. A light soy-free marinade with ginger and scallions adds depth without overloading on sodium. Grilling, when done carefully, can also be a great diabetic-friendly method. especially for fattier fish like salmon or mackerel. The key is to avoid overcharring or using high-sugar barbecue sauces, which can turn a healthy meal into a blood sugar bomb. A simple olive oil and lemon marinade, combined with indirect heat and a quick cook time, allows the fish to caramelize gently without creating harmful compounds. Grilled fish tastes rich and smoky, perfect for outdoor meals or weekend dinners, and can be paired with roasted vegetables or whole grains like quinoa for added fiber and satisfaction. Just remember, charred edges may taste great but can produce chemicals that increase inflammation and should be avoided, especially for those with diabetes or heart disease. Let's not forget about poaching, a method that's often overlooked but perfect for gentle, nutrient-preserving cooking. Poaching involves simmering fish in a broth, herb-infused water, or even milk for white fish like cod. This method prevents drying, requires no added oil, and creates a soft texture that's easy on aging teeth and digestion. I knew a 72-year-old woman who hated fish for decades, until she tried poached salmon in lemon thyme broth. She said it was the first time fish didn't feel heavy or leave her burping afterward. She started including it in her weekly rotation and saw better energy, improved sleep, and steadier blood sugar readings by the third week. The beauty of these methods, baking, steaming, grilling, and poaching, is that they let the natural goodness of fish shine through without adding blood sugar spiking ingredients. They reduce calorie load, support kidney and heart health, and give your body the kind of nutrition it can use right away without asking your insulin to work overtime. And because they're gentler, they reduce the after-meal fatigue or brain fog that many seniors silently live with for years without realizing food was the cause. Here's one more tip. Whatever cooking method you choose, pair your fish with the right sides. Think sautéed greens with garlic, a scoop of lentils or beans, roasted sweet potato, or a small serving of brown rice. These complex carbs and fiber-rich foods help regulate the way your body absorbs glucose. Even adding a squeeze of lemon, a sprinkle of turmeric, or fresh parsley can add natural anti-inflammatory support, without a single pill or supplement. In short, healthy cooking methods aren't about bland meals or boring routines. They're about giving your body a break from the hidden stressors in modern food and honoring your health with choices that taste good and feel good afterward. When seniors over 50 learn to cook fish this way, they don't just protect their blood sugar. They reclaim energy, reduce risk, and often rediscover the joy of eating without guilt or confusion. Up next, we'll dive into what fish should be showing up on your plate. Now that you've seen the risks and the better cooking methods, it's time to highlight the best fish choices that actively support blood sugar stability, heart health, and aging well, with no surprises hiding under the surface. After all the warnings about mercury, breading, bad fats, and chemical exposure, it's easy to wonder, is there any fish left I can actually enjoy? The answer is yes, and not just enjoy, but thrive with. While certain fish come with hidden risks for people over 50 managing diabetes, others are packed with the exact nutrients your body needs to stay strong, reduce inflammation, support joint health, and keep your blood sugar more stable. Choosing the right fish isn't about fear. It's about being selective, informed, and smart with your plate. And once you understand what makes a fish safe, you can start eating in a way that feels good both emotionally and physically. At the top of the list is wild-caught salmon. This fish is high in omega-3 fatty acids, low in mercury, and loaded with anti-inflammatory properties. Omega-3s are crucial for people with diabetes because they help lower triglycerides, reduce insulin resistance, and protect the small blood vessels that support nerve and kidney function. They also nourish your joints, something especially important for older adults dealing with stiffness or arthritis. Wild salmon also provides a healthy dose of vitamin D, which plays a role in immune balance and glucose metabolism. Many older adults are deficient in vitamin D without realizing it, and adding salmon once or twice a week is a natural way to help close that gap. Another excellent option is sardines, especially those packed in water or olive oil. These small fish are low on the food chain, which means they contain very little mercury. They're also one of the most nutrient-dense fish available, offering omega-3s, calcium, vitamin B12, and selenium, all in a tiny package. Sardines are especially valuable for joint support because of their natural collagen and anti-inflammatory profile. For seniors who can handle the stronger flavor, sardines can be mashed into avocado, added to salads, or blended into spreads. And for those concerned about bones, don't worry. The bones in canned sardines are soft and safe to eat, offering extra calcium that supports bone density with age. Rainbow trout is another underappreciated choice that brings big benefits. Like salmon, it's rich in omega-3s and low in mercury. It has a mild flavor that appeals to people who find salmon too fishy, and it's easy to prepare through baking or broiling. Rainbow trout supports heart health, stabilizes blood sugar, and doesn't weigh heavily on digestion. For many seniors with sensitive stomachs, trout is one of the easiest proteins to tolerate. Plus, it's often farmed in better controlled freshwater environments, especially in the US, where regulations are stricter than overseas. Then there's herring, a fish commonly eaten in European cultures and making a comeback in American kitchens. Herring offers a rich source of healthy fats, vitamin D, and coenzyme Q10, a compound that supports heart muscle health and energy production in cells. This matters for older adults managing both diabetes and fatigue. When blood sugar isn't well managed, energy crashes are common. The nutrients in herring support mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses in your cells, helping you feel more steady throughout the day. Just be mindful to choose herring that's pickled in vinegar rather than sugary brines. Atlantic mackerel, not to be confused with king mackerel, is also a smart pick. It's high in omega-3s, moderate in fat, and much lower in mercury than its larger cousins. It's particularly good for brain function, making it helpful for older adults concerned about memory, clarity, and mood, all of which can be affected by both age and fluctuating glucose levels. Eating mackerel once a week can support emotional balance, reduce triglycerides, and even help with eye health, which is often a concern for diabetics. When choosing these fish, quality matters. Look for wild-caught when possible and always read labels. Avoid anything breaded, fried, or heavily processed. Stick to fish packed in water, olive oil, or natural juices, not sauces with added sugar or excessive salt. And whenever possible, pair your fish with sides that support blood sugar balance. Leafy greens, lentils, roasted vegetables, or small portions of whole grains. For seniors living with diabetes, food needs to do more than fill your stomach. It needs to heal, support, and restore. Safe fish choices like salmon, sardines, trout, herring, and mackerel aren't just good for your glucose. They protect your joints, fuel your brain, and strengthen your heart. They help your body fight inflammation from the inside out. And unlike red meat or processed foods, they leave you feeling light, satisfied, and more energized, not sluggish or bloated after a meal. But it's not just about the type of fish, it's about how often and how consistently you include it. Adding these healthier options just twice a week can make a real difference over time. One man in his mid-60s started replacing his usual fried fish lunch with baked trout and steamed broccoli twice a week. In 3 months, his A1C dropped by nearly a full point, his knees hurt less, and he said he finally had the energy to take evening walks again. Next, we'll build on this foundation by talking about how to design an entire fish-based meal plan that fits a diabetic lifestyle. You've learned which fish to avoid and which to embrace. Now let's put it all together in a way that's easy, sustainable, and enjoyable for years to come. Now that we've walked through the fish to avoid and the fish that help, the next question becomes, how do I turn this into a real plan I can follow every week? For many seniors, especially those managing type 2 diabetes, planning meals can feel overwhelming. There's medication to consider, energy levels that vary day to day, and long-standing food habits that aren't easy to change. But the truth is, with a little structure and intention, you can build a weekly fish routine that doesn't just support blood sugar. It also protects your heart, supports your joints, and makes you feel lighter, sharper, and more in control. First, let's look at frequency. Most experts recommend including fish in your diet 2 to 3 times per week. This allows you to get a steady intake of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and lean protein without overdoing it. Too much fish, especially if it's high in fat or sodium, can work against you. And like anything with diabetes, consistency matters more than extremes. A good rhythm might look like wild-caught salmon on Mondays, trout on Thursdays, and a small portion of sardines or mackerel on the weekend. These 3 meals alone can provide enough anti-inflammatory support to balance out the rest of your week, especially if the other meals are built around fiber-rich vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats like olive oil or avocado. Next, think about variety. The biggest trap many seniors fall into is eating the same thing over and over again. While it may feel easier, the body thrives on nutrient diversity. Rotate between different types of fish so you're getting a mix of nutrients and avoiding overexposure to any one type. For example, trout is high in selenium, while sardines bring in calcium and B12. Mackerel supports brain health, while herring delivers vitamin D and healthy cholesterol. When you rotate these intentionally, you support different systems in your body, from nerves to bones to blood vessels. Equally important is how the fish fits into your plate. Fish shouldn't be the only thing on the dish. Always pair it with a side that slows digestion and supports glucose regulation. This could be roasted sweet potatoes with cinnamon, which also has blood sugar-lowering properties, or sautéed kale with garlic and olive oil. Lentils, quinoa, chickpeas, and even small servings of brown rice or barley can all help buffer the release of sugar into your blood. The goal isn't just to avoid spikes. It's to create steady, gentle energy throughout the day. One retired truck driver I worked with used to get sleepy and foggy every afternoon. Once he added fiber-rich sides to his salmon meals, like a lentil salad or roasted carrots with thyme, his energy smoothed out, and his post-meal blood sugar became more predictable. Preparation matters too. As we've already discussed, skip the breading and frying. Stick with baking, steaming, poaching, or gentle pan-searing in olive oil. If you miss that crispy texture, try coating your fish with crushed almonds, oats, or even sesame seeds. These add crunch, protein, and healthy fats without triggering glucose spikes. And for seasoning, herbs like rosemary, thyme, turmeric, dill, cumin, or even fresh lemon zest can make your dish feel gourmet, without adding salt or sugar. Also consider meal timing. Many older adults find that eating their main fish meal at lunch works better than at dinner. Digestion slows as we age, and eating a heavier meal late in the day can interfere with sleep or cause nighttime glucose fluctuations. If you have a history of restless sleep, vivid dreams, or waking up at 3 a.m. feeling hot or uneasy, your dinner may be too heavy. A lighter dinner with soup, a hard-boiled egg, or vegetable stir-fry may help. Save the fish for lunch when your metabolism is more active, and your body can fully use those nutrients for energy, repair, and blood sugar control. One often overlooked element is hydration. Fish is high in protein, and protein needs water to be properly processed by your kidneys. Seniors often don't feel thirst as clearly as they did when younger, so it's easy to become dehydrated without realizing it. Drinking a glass of water before and after your fish meal helps your body digest the protein smoothly, regulate sodium, and move glucose more efficiently. You don't need to overhydrate, just be consistent. Some people also enjoy warm teas after meals, such as cinnamon tea, ginger tea, or peppermint, all of which can support digestion and reduce post-meal inflammation. And finally, make your plan real. Write down your fish rotation on paper. Print it out. Stick it on the fridge. Planning ahead turns abstract knowledge into practical action and removes the stress of deciding what to eat at the last minute. You can even prep in batches, bake 2 salmon fillets at once, store one in the fridge, and enjoy it cold over a salad the next day. Keep a few cans of sardines or low-sodium tuna in the pantry for days when you don't feel like cooking. Healthy habits don't have to be hard, they just need to be reliable. Coming up next, we'll bring all of this together and talk about the simple seafood habits that can carry you through your 60s, 70s, and beyond, supporting your energy, protecting your blood sugar, and making each meal something you actually look forward to. By now, you've seen the full picture, the fish to avoid, the ones that heal, the cooking methods that protect your heart, and the meal planning strategies that actually work. But if you're like most seniors I've worked with, you might still be wondering, how do I make this part of my life without feeling overwhelmed or giving up the foods I love? The answer lies not in big overhauls or strict diets, but in small, sustainable seafood habits that quietly support your health day after day, without stress, without confusion, and without forcing you to give up the joy of eating. Let's start with the most powerful habit of all, weekly planning. One of the easiest ways to stay on track with your blood sugar, joint comfort, and energy levels is to make a simple meal plan that includes 2 to 3 fish-based meals per week. Not 5, not 7, just 2 or 3 well-planned, balanced fish meals can be enough to give your body steady access to omega-3 fats, lean protein, and key nutrients like vitamin D and selenium. You don't have to reinvent your kitchen. It could be grilled trout with steamed spinach on Tuesday, poached salmon with quinoa on Friday, or a sardine salad with olive oil and cucumbers on Sunday. Write those meals down, repeat them each week, and soon they become as normal as your morning coffee. Next comes portion awareness. Many seniors trying to eat healthier unintentionally overdo it. Not with junk food, but with portions that are simply too big for their current metabolism. One serving of fish is about the size of your palm, roughly 4 to 6 ounces. That's enough to fuel your muscles, protect your joints, and support blood sugar balance without overwhelming your digestive system. When portions are right-sized, your body feels satisfied, not stuffed. That means fewer crashes after meals, better overnight glucose numbers, and more energy to get moving during the day. Pair your protein with a half plate of non-starchy vegetables, like leafy greens, cauliflower, or carrots, and a small serving of complex carbs such as lentils, sweet potato, or brown rice. Another helpful habit is batch cooking and freezing. Many older adults have days when they just don't feel like cooking, and that's okay. But that's also when unhealthy choices creep back in. The solution: when you're feeling well, cook extra. Bake 4 pieces of salmon instead of 2. Steam a double portion of broccoli. Cook lentils for 2 days, not 1. Freeze extras in individual containers. That way, on days when you're tired or short on time, you've already got a blood sugar-friendly meal waiting. No decisions, no effort, no guilt. Also, consider building a go-to seafood shelf in your pantry or fridge. This could include canned sardines, light tuna in water, frozen wild-caught salmon fillets, or even pre-cooked vacuum-sealed trout. Add a bottle of olive oil, a jar of capers, lemon juice, and dried herbs. With just a few staples, you can pull together a healthy meal in 10 minutes without relying on fried food, fast food, or salty deli options. When healthy options are easy and visible, they become your default, even on hard days. Now let's talk about what to skip without guilt. Fried fish, maybe once a month, and only when it's a special treat you truly enjoy. Breaded frozen fish sticks, better to leave them behind. Tuna packed in oil and salt? Read the label and opt for the low-sodium water-packed version instead. The key isn't to shame your choices. It's to gently upgrade them, one by one, until your kitchen naturally supports your health instead of working against it. Finally, anchor your new habits with purpose. Eating fish isn't just about numbers or nutrients. It's about mobility, independence, mental clarity, and quality of life. Every meal you make with care is an investment in your future strength. Being able to walk without pain, sleep through the night, remember names and appointments, enjoy outings without fatigue, and live your life on your terms. That's the real power of these small seafood choices. You're not just changing dinner, you're changing the path ahead. Coming up, we'll close this video with a message of encouragement. A quiet reminder that progress isn't about perfection. It's about steady, doable changes that fit who you are and where you are in life. You've made it through the hard part. Now let's wrap it up with something warm and hopeful. Sometimes, the most important lessons come not from dramatic changes, but from quiet realizations. Like the moment you discover that something as familiar as a piece of fish can either help your body feel lighter or quietly add to the burden you've been carrying. If you've stayed with us until now, you've just walked through something deeper than a list of tips. You've taken a closer look at how everyday choices, shaped by habit or convenience, can be gently reshaped to support the life you want to keep living. This wasn't just about fish or blood sugar. It was about the bigger picture. Protecting your energy, your clarity, your independence. And more than that, it was about returning to a way of eating that leaves you feeling nourished, not confused or inflamed or exhausted. Maybe the next time you're at the store or planning your meals for the week, something small will shift. You might reach for wild salmon instead of fried fish or pause to steam instead of pan fry, not because someone told you to, but because your body asked for something calmer, something that leaves space for you to feel good afterward. These moments of choice aren't just for your numbers. They're also for your peace of mind, your grandchildren who want to walk beside you a little longer, or that sense of stillness you've been missing in the rush of daily routines. Change doesn't have to be loud. It can look like a quiet dinner with a baked fillet and some warm roasted vegetables, or starting the morning not with a rushed bite, but with a healthy breakfast and a cup of herbal tea that warms your hands and helps your heart settle. The path forward is not about perfection. It's about learning to listen to your body with more kindness and remembering that you're allowed to slow down, to choose better, and to feel good doing it. And sometimes, all it takes is one small meal done differently to remind you that healing doesn't shout. It whispers.